Hey, Mystic Michaela spiritual family. Welcome to Know Your Aura with Mystic Michaela. Today, we are talking about control, meaning the control inside yourself, where you feel like you have control issues within and how it affects you and what's underneath it and what it reveals about you spiritually. But first, hey, Scotty.
Hey, guys.
So, Scott, where would you say you have, I think, like the most anxiety with control issues?
Okay. All right. I would say pretty much everything. Everything I do.
Everything. I agree.
Do you want me to be more specific?
Well, you know what happened was, and I'm going to talk about this later as we get into it, as I get into my part of it. I had like a real wake up call about control. And some of us, it's really easy to see where people are controlling. But some of us are very controlling, but we keep it very self-contained. And that's like me. And I was noticing it in myself, and I had a whole thing, and I'm going to get into it. But with you, because I had the spiritual download about it, I wanted to know what exactly in your life you have the most anxiety aligned with control.
I mean, so many things. Again, I don't know if I could even pinpoint it. Yeah. It's that many. But you know, I really don't like people doing things for me. Mm-hmm. That's like a number one thing. Like whether it comes to like something around the house, parking my car. Now I know that you and the whole family would just utter one word, which is chip.
Yeah, well, you don't like to pay for valet.
Yeah, no, I truly don't. It's not even that. Like valet is like what? It's like $2-3. Like,
yeah, I know. I know.
It's not that. I don't want someone getting in my car and parking it because, like, they could, like, you know, dent it. They could do a Ferris Bueller's Day Off and take it for a joyride.
They're going to take your RAV4.
My RAV4, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they might take it around town.
Making someone's dreams come true in your RAV4 with the car seat in the back.
Yeah. Exactly. So, like today, like our doorknob fell off the door.
It just totally fell off.
And you're like, call Otto.
Oh, Otto's our handy guy.
And I'm like, no, not like all of a sudden, you get like I'm going to do it. I want to fix it, and we did.
We did. Yes, it's true.
So,
I thought you just didn't want to spend the money.
No, I mean even like we have these massive palm trees.
Yeah,
and they're like $20 to take all like the berries and all the stuff off them, like all the dead.
To trim them,
mm-hmm. Right. And instead of like just asking, Armando or someone, our gardener, our landscaper, I just bought one of these massive 25-foot poles and just did it myself.
It's real scary,
which is harder than anything. And I was always dying.
You have a machete,
yes, attached
to 25 feet of very wobbly pole, but you did it,
and I'm on a ladder.
Yeah.
And I got berries like just coming down to my eyes.
Yeah, branches are hitting you on the head. But you did it. That's fine.
But I did it. And, I could have easily just called Armando for the $20 or whatever.
Yes, he's about money.
But it's not that. I don't
know if it's about, you just mentioned the money.
It's true. I know.
That's fine. No,
it sounds like it is, but it's not.
I'm not even talking about that stuff.
Okay, what are you talking about then? Give it to me. Read me. Just go ahead. Just get it over with.
No, because I have my issues and you have your issues. It's just like, I feel like with you, I see you needing you don't really always have faith in other people.
Okay. All right.
To do something.
It's interesting.
And I also get that there's a very specific way you need something done.
Okay.
And if it's not done that a very specific way, and I think the rest of us are all like, let him do it. Because, if you do it incorrectly, you're going to hear about it or something. So that's how the rest of us are with you. Like, let him do it because there's a very specific way. And I often wonder, like, why do you need to do it so specifically in that way? Like, what's going to happen? Like, if we don't sit at the perfect table at the restaurant, who cares?
Okay.
If the waiter bumps you or you hear somebody else's conversation, you know what I mean? Or if it takes us 20 minutes longer to get somewhere because we took a different street someone suggested, like, whatever, what is that inside of you?
All right, that's great. Okay, so
what is that? Like, seriously, right. Like, why?
We got to get this fixed.
No, it's fine. I just want to know.
It's true because, like, even the other, when we went on the ghost hunt in St. Augustine, and I had given Jules the task, one of the people that came, of doing the name tags, and she was doing them, and she was probably doing them fine. But then I pulled her over to me, hey, let's just do this together, and I'll do it with you. And then I started to, do it myself with her help.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't just let her
just do
it. Now, what's wrong with me? That's right. There's something wrong with me. Because I could have just let her just do whatever way she wanted, and at the end brought me the list, all checked off, and it would have been totally fine. And then I could have just, maybe mingled more or something or done something else.
Well, with that, I have to say,
what is that
with the group events, you like to just be part of it. Like, you like to know who's there.
Okay.
And kind of, I think because you like to be a leader, that's like your leadership energy. You want to kind of have a connection with every single person that's there. You want to see who didn't show up. You want to see who did show up. You want to make
isn't that the problem though? This is very controlling, isn't it?
Well, I don't know, because I think that's more kind of like your leadership vibes.
Okay.
You knew she was going to do a good job. It wasn't that with her. It's more kind of like, I'm talking more about when you micromanage or something like that. I'm just going to lay it out here because I'm going to cut to the chase because I know you.
Okay.
I feel like with you, sometimes your subconscious motivation for being controlling is that you don't want anything done incorrectly so that it points the fingers back onto you. So for some reason, you always just like put yourself in charge. Like you just always think you're in charge. So if something goes wrong, it's your fault.
Okay.
So if you pass the buck to somebody else, like if you pass the role to somebody else to do something and they do it wrong, it's still your fault. And why are you so scared of something going wrong? Why are you so scared of something not being perfect? Why are you so scared of something being your fault? I see with you all the time. You are absolutely terrified of somebody pointing a finger at you. Well, you screwed up because, or this didn't work out because, or you dropped the ball here, and this is why everything fell apart.
So you're, okay.
So I think that you step into leadership roles, and then you can't let other people help you because you're absolutely terrified of failure because of what you do in your own head to yourself when you fail. And that's what I think. And you actually take responsibility for other people's actions as if their actions are your actions, because it'll just be your fault if they screw up, even if you handed them a job that was their job. Like, you don't even let people have their own responsibility. You take their responsibility back from them. So even with Jules, who's doing a fine job, maybe you had to like get her in because you're like, I just have to make sure, because it's not her fault if I mess up. That's my fault. I didn't micromanage her, if that makes sense. Okay. And that like it would still always be your fault. And who cares if it's anyone's fault, by the way?
So what you're saying is I'm trying to control the who like if something goes wrong, I just want it to be on me. Like I'm trying to control the.
I feel like there's a 2-part thing, like just with you, and maybe other people are like this too.
Yeah.
I feel like you take, and this is your blue. We can talk about an aura color. Your blue aura, I feel like, takes responsibility for everyone's good time. Like, everyone's good time. Bigger the group, everyone's good time is your responsibility.
I agree. Yes.
Everyone's experience is your responsibility.
Yes.
To an extent, like, you're not like me where you're like, oh my God, did they feel seen? Or like, you're not like me that way. You're more just like, okay, we had a good time. It went smooth. Everyone's here. I did what I said, like that, like more the logistical. So you take that responsibility on yourself subconsciously. And that means that anybody helping you, which is like good leadership stuff, like you make sure that everyone is who, it's like you can't give tasks because that would be outsourcing.
Right.
And outsourcing for you can't do it because if they screw up, that's your screw up.
Okay.
So if you give somebody like I think it was like the biggest deal for you in the world to get an accountant. It really was like several years ago when we're like, let's just get an accountant. Taxes are confusing. And you were like, I think it was really hard for you to do that. It's hard for you to outsource because I feel like if somebody else screws up, that's your screw up.
Okay.
Even if it's their job or something.
Right.
I think you just you own too much of everything.
I do. I think you're right. That's 100% right. And I mean, that's I guess why it takes me, like I dread planning like the next gathering.
Yeah.
I just dread it and that's why I dreaded like the last one is because, every decision I do try to make it, but so I want, if it's a wrong decision, it's on me. It's not on anyone else. I don't want anyone else to take on that error. Like, if I don't pick the place and someone else picks the place and it's the wrong place, then.
But what makes it wrong?
I don't know.
That's what I mean. Like, you also have this criteria that only exists in your own head.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
I'm hard on myself, I guess.
That's what I'm getting to. I feel like you fear your own self-talk if you mess up. There's a lot of projection and blame onto yourself.
Yeah.
But where is that coming from? What was that like? Was there like, it feels like there's probably, because I know you already know the answer to this, a connection with growing up.
Yeah.
How bad was it if you did something without thinking it out?
Well, if I got a 95 on a test, the question would be, where's the other 5 points? So we internalize that. Yeah, you're hard on yourself. So we internalize a lot of that. And then wherever that internalization of your control is, there's fear. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Wherever you're being controlling is where you're actually really scared about something. So basically,
or some other things we'll talk about.
I'm pretty much scared of everything.
Well, I think you're scared of something going wrong, and for some reason you make this connection that nobody else is making. Oh, that's Scott's fault. Nobody else makes that connection. You make that connection.
Yeah.
And it's good to take responsibility and be responsible, but it's like everything.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah.
It's everything. It's got to be exhausting. Are you tired?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get.
Like sometimes it's like the perfect place to eat, or like we have to park in the right spot, or we have to do like every single thing has to be, okay, Scott, you just decide because you're so weird if it's not perfect.
Oh, man. A lot thrown at me right now. So I'm kind of speechless.
It's deep.
But it's all correct. I don't argue. I can't even argue any of this.
Well, I don't know. I did it to myself this week, too.
It's correct.
And I'm going to talk about what I discovered with myself, and hopefully we can all do it with each other.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to let go of some stuff. And, I can't. I'm at the point I can't do it. It's like I try. And, it's so easy to it would be so easy to say to someone, okay, we're doing the gathering. I'm going to give this over to...
He's talking about, by the way, the Mystic Michaela Spiritual Family Gathering. We try to do it once a year.
Yeah. I'm going to, you're awesome. You're yellow and you're awesome. And I know you could probably do 1,000 times better than me. I'm just going to give it over to you.
Yes.
And then just report back to me.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
I know.
I want to.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Right. Well,
that would make it so much easier.
You like being part of it, too.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. All right.
All
right, let's take a little break here.
Okay.
Because I got to absorb all this stuff, and this is going to take me a long time to get through, and I don't know if I could have the breakthrough right now, but it definitely makes sense. And I guess that's half the battle, just kind of understanding that, right?
Yeah. And then, I had that this week, too.
Yeah, that too.
All
right. All right, so let's do a couple of ads, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the true story of The Watcher, a Netflix show, in Oracolor.
As a parent of a child with eczema, it is very hard to see her struggle with itchiness and discomfort from eczema. And I've always been really hesitant to try new products, but I just have always wanted the best for her. But Glad Skin is safe and gentle on my child's skin. We use the shampoo bar. We use the face wash. We use the body wash. We use the eczema soothing cream. I don't use anything on her that's not Glad Skin. And that is because it has been the most effective at keeping the eczema at bay. Glad Skin is a new category of skin treatment that is made for people of all ages with eczema prone, acne prone, and rosacea prone skin. But what actually causes the itchiness, redness, inflammation, and discomfort in the skin, it's a disruption of the bacterial environment, also called the skin microbiome. Glad Skin specifically works to target the imbalance in your skin's microbiome. But unlike other skin brands and prescription medications, Glad Skin uses Microbalance, a revolutionary protein that restores the balance of the good and bad bacteria that live on your skin so it can finally heal. It is so effective that 91% of users, adults and children, who tried their top-selling eczema cream reported significant improvement in just 7 days. Glad Skin's new oatmeal-free baby formula is non-toxic and free of steroids and other common irritants. Pediatricians and dermatologists love Glad Skin for even the littlest of babies, by the way. So if you've been frustrated with your treatment options, please don't wait to try GladSkin. They are offering my listeners 15% off plus free shipping on your first order at gladskin.com/KYA. That's gladskin.com/KYA for 15% off plus free shipping. That's gladskin.com/KYA. I love to give my loved ones gifts that I know work and that I use myself. Well, Way has everything you need to keep your hair healthy and looking great all winter long. Plus, they've got amazing gift sets that everyone on your list will love. Before Way, I was always worried about my hair looking thin and how dry it would get. And when I needed a reset, I didn't quite know what to do. But their best-selling leave-in conditioner and their detox shampoo are actual staples forever in my life, and I like to give those to my loved ones as well. The best-selling leave-in conditioner, it helps with frizz, tangles, flyaways, and breakage for all hair types. I put it on after the shower before I do any styling because it protects your hair from heat up to 450 degrees, and it's color safe and it's cruelty free. And with the Way Better Together kit, you can get the full-sized leave-in conditioner and a full-size detox shampoo for just $40. That's perfect for gifting or trying the best of Way for yourself. Can't get enough? There's also the 3-way kit because let's face it, 3 ways are way better than one. This kit features best-selling travel-size detox shampoo, leave-in conditioner, and wave spray to treat, hydrate, and style your hair. So discover all the ways to share joy this holiday season. Go to theway, TheOuai.com, and use code AURA to get 15% off your entire purchase. That's 15% off your entire order at theway, TheOuai.com, code AURA. Hey, Scotty.
Hey, guys.
Okay, so Scott and I watched The Watcher, which is a popular show right now on Netflix. And if you haven't seen it and you want to, or you're watching it and you haven't finished it yet, this is a spoiler. So spoiler alert, you're going to want to fast forward several minutes until I start talking about control. So just move on. That's your warning. All right, so we watched the entire special, or limited series, and I wanted to do this in aura color. Let's look at the real people. Let's see their aura colors. And also, let's see what really happened. So Scott did a deep dive.
I did. And here's the first thing I have to say. I think Netflix claimed that this is based on a true story.
I should give the premise.
Okay, give a little of the premise.
So the premise of The Watcher is a family, 2 kids, moves into a house that they can't exactly afford, but they do it anyways in kind of like an old established neighborhood. And the neighbors obviously don't want them to be there, and it's kind of sketchy, like who they're buying it from, and then all these, then like it's just weird. And then they start getting these really creepy letters, and the letters are very creepy, describing the children and describing blood and different things, and it's signed The Watcher, and they take it to the cops, and the cops seem to fumble it, and everybody kind of seems in on it, and then there's a hole in the wall, and somebody's living in a bedroom in the wall, and there's like blood cults and murders and stalkers supernatural and maybe a real estate scam and Jennifer Coolidge, and then
a lot going on.
Then they move and they sell for a loss.
Right. Okay, so that's the show.
That's the show.
And again,
and you're like, what?
Yeah. Now, as a show, it was fine. It was entertaining.
I knew you were going to be mad, though.
Held my interest.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed watching it. If Netflix claims that this is based on truth, there's a red rant so huge coming.
They did. That's the beginning, okay, based on a true story.
Okay, that's absolutely ridiculous. Possibly 5% of what Netflix showed was true.
Okay.
The rest is just all fabrication. There's nothing to it. But, all right, so I had to, of course, look into this to see what's going on here.
Okay.
All right, so in June 2014, Derek and Maria Brodus buy the home from the Woods family, 657 Boulevard, which they love to say creepily in the show, 657 Boulevard.
They do say that a lot.
In like a Kylo Ren voice they use.
Yeah, it does sound like
Kylo Ren is reading
Adam Driver.
Yeah. Maybe he's the guy. I don't know. But 657 Boulevard in Westfield, New Jersey, an affluent area, And they buy the home from the Woods family. And again, in the Netflix show, they tell you it's like an LLC.
Some sketchy. Yeah.
No, the Woods talk to them. In fact, the Woods family actually received a letter right before, I think they had already sold it, and then right before the Brodus family was supposed to move in. So they did actually receive a letter. They had lived there for 20 years and never had received a letter before that. Okay, so, and the Brodus family knew about the letter. They were upfront. That's very nice of them, I guess. And they decided to go ahead with the sale anyway. So they buy the home. Right after they close and start the process of moving in, they get a letter from the watcher. You know, it's a creepy letter. There's nothing too specific in this letter.
Okay.
It does say that they have 3 children, I believe.
Yeah, the real family has 3 children.
Yeah, I think in the movie, though, the
2.
Netflix, it was 2. Okay, so even that. They do not use any names in that letter. Okay. So there's no, like, names of the kids. It's mostly about the house being watched for many, many years. Like the grandfather, like his grandfather watched it, or her. I don't know if it's a man or a woman.
Right.
And then his or her father watched the home. And a lot about bringing in new blood.
Yeah.
I assume the Woods then didn't have children, or their children had grown up and moved out.
Okay.
So when the Broduses move in, they're bringing in 3 kids.
They were young kids.
And the watcher is happy about that.
Yeah.
So anyway, they get this letter, and they bring it to the police. They freak out, and they decide not to move in. Okay, so this right here is why the Netflix show was so ridiculous, because the Brodus family never moved into this house.
Even lived there.
Never lived there. They did some renovations, boxes, never slept one night in the house.
They were too freaked out.
Right. The whole Netflix show is them living in the house. They were too freaked out.
Right.
Yeah. Then 2 weeks later, there's a second letter, a little bit more specific. Again, no mention of names. I think, they kind of knew some of the items that had moved into the home, like a painting easel. In the Netflix show, it's a piano, so they can't even go. There's nothing there, and they can continue with this young blood thing, which is creepy. If you have kids,
I wouldn't want to move in either. I'd be creeped out.
Yeah. Then they do get a third letter, another letter from the watcher, and then they decide they were going to put the house on the market. I think about 6 months after they bought it, they put the house on the market. They had received 3 letters. Then the internet starts to take hold of it, like you said, Reddit.
Yeah.
And it becomes like an internet sensation for a couple years.
That's how I had. So I had heard of this before all this because it was on Reddit. And so when I saw this show on Netflix, I'm like, oh, yeah, I heard that story before. And so I kind of had an idea of what actually happened. What's funny is this show seemed like if you just kind of scoured the Reddit threads for theories and you just made it into a show. It's like the Reddit thread wrote the show for them, basically. It was just everyone's kind of conspiracy theories about what was happening.
Okay. So they took like conspiracy theories.
That's what I mean.
That's
what I think.
It could be.
Because I was like, did they just take the Reddit threads and like make cool storylines around it? Because everyone was like, oh, how do you know? And like they ran with it. The internet ran with it. It was interesting.
Right. I mean, because, and
how did everybody find out about the letters, though?
Eventually, it's a small town. Westfield, I guess, is fairly small.
Okay.
Although the watcher claims that hundreds of people are walking by their house every day and cars are driving by. So I don't know how small it is. But anyway, apparently it got out in town, and then it spread and spread and spread.
Okay.
It got to the internet, of course. And then there's a fourth letter. So then they decide to rent the house. This is like 2 years later. They try to sell it for like 2 years. They can't do anything. They're like, oh, could we rent it? They decide to rent it. There's actually an agreement in the renter's clause. Like if another letter appears, you can get out of the lease.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of funny. That's funny. So there is a fourth letter.
Oh, there is?
Yeah. So there's a fourth letter that comes then, which is a little bit more dark. They get like progressively a little more dark.
Okay.
Reading them. Then the husband, Derek, he's actually starts sending letters to the neighbors because he's trying to figure out who's sending these letters, and he's blaming all the neighbors, and he doesn't know.
Right.
So he starts writing letters and putting them in their mailboxes.
Right.
Which they actually did show in the Netflix movie.
Yes. That he sent everyone a letter. Yeah.
And then finally in July of 2019, they sell the house at a loss, and the new owners have not claimed any letters again. And like I said before, the Woods family lived there 20 years, and they had one letter at the end. So
and one of the thoughts wasn't that, just like in the Netflix, this is that he was doing it himself or it was a hoax.
Right. Yeah, it was a hoax.
That's
Maybe
what
he was doing
people
it himself.
were accusing him of. Yeah.
Yeah, they made, and yeah, well, let's get into that in a second, I guess. But there's really not much to this story, to be honest with you. And Netflix, I think paid them 7 figures.
Wow.
To come up with this thing. And it's 7 episodes. Each episode's about 55 minutes. So you got to get 7 hours for a story that maybe has like 30 minutes.
Right.
You could have done a documentary in 30 minutes and called it a day. Yeah. But all right, let's look at the character. So Derek in the Netflix show, I mean, he's clearly a red-blue.
Yeah, and then they portray him a certain way.
Yeah, let's get his colors.
So I'm looking at the real picture of Derek, and he's on Twitter. He's green and blue.
Okay.
And immediately when I see him, he's obsessive. So that's, and like in that way, like we're a green person, like I have to solve a problem or a puzzle. And I can see him being very obsessive and almost to the point of, and this, I think the Netflix show did get this right, kind of like, are you okay? Like that kind of vibe on him. And if you go look at even of his Twitter, he's says, they say they don't want press. Oh, I don't want attention. We don't want attention. But he's very active on Twitter. Right. So it's just a lot of, and I get that because you want people believing you that something happened. So you're really hell-bent on proving your point or whatever. But why would you then sell your rights to Netflix? Because they basically accused him of partaking in it if you watch the show. Anyways, when I see him, he's just really green and blue, and he feels extremely focused. Hyper-focused on it to this day still.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is, and this is just my own, I don't know these people, this is just my own thought. If something interesting like this happens to you, okay, and you're a smart person, and what does he do for a living? Because he feels like he does something where he can kind of project an image.
Yeah,
what does he do?
I think it was like, I'm not exactly sure. In Netflix, they showed it as like finance.
Yeah, lawyer or something. I think he does sales. Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're like a smart person and like, wow, this is kind of, and it hits the internet, then all of a sudden you're like, do I have something here? Lost the house. What can I salvage? And I think 2 things can be true. Like something can happen to you and you can make money off of it if you're smart enough. And I feel like this guy's smart enough.
Okay.
Like this thing happened, like you said, it wasn't that interesting.
No,
but the internet made it quite interesting.
Right.
With all their Reddit threads and whatnot. And that's his story. And it would be really interesting, like how did that connection happen with Netflix there? Like how did that project happen?
Yeah, and there actually was I think a Lifetime movie too.
Oh, was there really?
Yeah. So this is number 2.
Wow.
This is the second thing. Yeah.
Okay, so he sold it to Lifetime too? You can do that?
Don't know exactly, but yeah, they did say there's a Lifetime.
There's a Lifetime movie. Yeah. Lifetime's really good at kind of doing their own thing, though. They're Lifetime. Anyways, so to me, I feel like like I said, 2 things can be true. Like something weird can happen to you, and then like you can take a step back and be like, how do I make money off this?
Right.
Which I can see with him a little bit. His wife, it was hard to find a picture of the family. Maria. The wife, I only found one of Maria. She's wearing sunglasses, but honestly, she looks indigo. And to me, she just looks like somebody who, she probably definitely put her foot down and was like, we're not moving in, which would have been me. Like, I'm not moving in there. I'm not doing that. And she feels like a bit go with the flow, which you'd have to be if you were married to somebody who's a little bit more obsessive than you are about things. Yeah. So that's just my read on them.
What's her other color? I know
she's hard because she's wearing sunglasses. I can't tell if she's indigo yellow or she's indigo purple. She's definitely indigo.
That's interesting because the character, I would say, in the Watcher that she plays, I would say she's either yellow purple or yellow blue indigo. Yeah. So that's what I would say. Like she flip-flops in that. Between yellow purple and yellow blue. The character
itself.
Yeah, the character itself.
Yeah, the character herself is very kind of yellow, but then also indigo, like you said, and purple.
But she can be purple too at times.
Yeah, that's so weird. Yeah. But like you said something funny during the show because the guy who plays Derek on the show. He's a famous actor. I forget his name.
Yeah, I forget his
I
name,
like
too.
him as an actor.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
But he's
Real
such
good
a
actor.
red guy. And you can't turn that off when you go act, I don't think.
No, he plays like the great bad guy.
He's always a bad guy.
And that's what I thought, you know.
He's from the
you were
Jumanji
saying
movie.
he gave you like Amityville horror vibes. The same guy.
This whole story, and this is a stretch, so you got to kind of like go with me here. We did a podcast episode about the Amityville horror house. And obviously without the gore and the horror and all that, okay? Like, take that out of it. Derek does not... He kind of reminds me of the dad in that story, too, which isn't a story. It really happened. In that there was this... Even his own kids in the Amityville horror house said, like, things happen, but not that crazy, the dad said.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and then they sold a story. It was a book. It was a movie. You know what I mean? And this guy reminds me of him.
Yeah.
And where it's like, yeah, well, things happen. Wasn't that crazy, you know? And now it's a, you know, movie and, you know, all these things. So it has the same vibe to me.
Yeah, sure.
It has and it's interesting in the Netflix show, they make it kind of like a horror house, a house of horrors.
Right. And that's what I was thinking. Cause I didn't know anything about the story. I'm thinking, oh, this must be a paranormal
They
movie.
tried to spin
they tried to make it seem
well,
like
the Reddit threads were like that.
They might have even used the Amityville horror house as their inspo. Yeah, exactly. So
it's just interesting when you see, because people are people.
Yeah.
And you can kind of get patterns in them, and it just kind of reminds you of each other.
Right.
But yeah, that's our take on The Watcher. We had to do it.
So but here's the one question that still remains: is there were definitely letters.
Yeah.
We're assuming that Derek didn't write the first 3 letters. Maybe he did write the 4th one.
Was it different
with that
than
letter.
the other 3?
It was a little bit different. Who was this person? What was it? Do you have? I mean, I don't know.
If you, because I'm more like the aura thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like Derek's making it all up.
The 3 letters.
I don't think he's like. There's a kernel of truth that I think just got kind of like shined up a bit into something a little bit more like cool, like that. But if you think about it, people are weird.
Do you get anything? Do you have a picture of the house by any chance?
I do, yeah.
What do you get from the house before we close up this?
Oh, the house itself, I mean, I don't know when this was taken, but it feels kind of lonely to me, the house. And it has an Amityville horror feeling vibe. The house, even the architecture looks very similar.
Okay.
But it has a bit of a lonely feeling to me.
Okay.
It does, like kind of big and empty and
Does it have
whatnot.
a paranormal feeling or no?
I think all old houses have that vibe to them just because there's history and you spend so much energy, you make so much memories there, and you invest so much of yourself in that space. But to me, it feels lonely. And it's interesting that the letters say, and this is really creepy, but it's so nice to have young blood in the house or whatever. If you're really attached to a house for whatever reason, you kind of do get excited when a nice family moves in. I have to say that. Like, there's no old houses in Florida. Like where we're living, you don't see any. But I remember growing up in Buffalo, like being, oh, this house is so nice. I'm so glad a family moved in there. You know, you just want kind of for the house something. So I can see this house, like people wanting something for it because it just kind of stands there. People probably drive by it because you said it's on a busy street, right? People are driving by it all the time. It's like, oh, did you hear family moved into that house? That's great. Oh, good. Because there's something about that house where you just want to see it, I guess, put in a place where it could live up to its potential. And it's a family house. Yeah. It's a family house.
Okay. And that makes sense with the letters because the letters do talk about, like, there was a time where the house was, like, great and lively.
Oh, do they?
And,
yeah.
And they claim that they used to go to the house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
As a child.
Oh, wow.
And they, there's like they're very upset that they're doing the renovations.
Oh, so that's kind of like in the show. That's funny.
Yeah, in the letters they talk about that. So it seems like they just want that house to be back to its old glory.
I get that.
Which
when you grow up around houses like that, you do want the best for them,
right? Because
I don't know, it's just something you want to see it live up to its potential. Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe it's just like a weirdo that liked the house.
Yeah, some weirdo.
Who knows?
Guy or woman who just really loved that house.
Some people are like that.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. All right. Let's do another ad, and then we come back. You're going to talk about control.
It's that time of year, and you want to give the people in your life something that they absolutely love. Well, guess what? There are few things as universally crowd-pleasing as clean skincare and body care gift sets. I love what I get them. Osea is a California-based skincare and body care brand that has been making clean, vegan, and cruelty-free skincare products for over 25 years. I mean, they use seaweed as their hero ingredient because it's a nutrient-rich superfood with endless benefits, including anti-aging and moisturization. You know, I personally use, I would say, like everything Osea makes. I love their Undaria LJ body oil. This is my absolute favorite. It is my go-to. A nice hot shower. I come on out. My skin's a little wet still, and I just put it all over. I glow. I feel good. I smell amazing. My skin has never looked more hydrated, and especially in the winter, this is what you need and want. And as a gift, you can give Osea's bestsellers minis collection. It's the perfect gift, and it's only available for a limited time. It's a 6-piece set of luxurious skincare and body care favorites in convenient and adorable travel size for a complete glow up from head to toe. 3 best-selling face products, their Ocean Cleanser, their Hyaluronic Sea Serum, their Seabiotic Water Cream, and 3 best-selling body moisturizers, including, yes, that's Undaria LJ body oil, packaged in a beautiful box that's easy to gift wrap. But with packaging this pretty, you can skip wrapping altogether. All of Osea's products are clean, clinically proven, and consumer tested. They're the perfect addition to your winter skincare and body care routine. So for a gift that will impress, check out Osea's bestsellers minis collection. Right now, our listeners get 10% off your first order with promo code KYA at OseaMalibu.com. You'll even get free samples with every order, and orders over $50 get free shipping. That's 10% off at Osea, OSEA, Malibu.com, promo code KYA. On October 25th, there was a solar eclipse, and sometimes these things just really affect me. And I'm sure this happens to all of you too. And the more I've been paying attention to it, the more I'm able to understand it and then take a step back and do something useful with it. So this is the result of that, because it hit me really hard. So that eclipse, a lot of it in a nutshell was about control and how it plays out in your life and where you need to see it and where you need to get rid of it or understand it. And I did a lot of self-digging, and it helped me. So I thought I'd talk about it here. So anyway, so I realized that, I mean, honestly, we all have control issues. All of us do. And a lot of us have them silently within ourselves, not such an outward, you might not be the person that anybody would ever call controlling, but for sure, because we're all like this, we have something going on in ourselves, which we're always trying to control. And the purpose of today's episode is basically recognizing where you are being controlling within yourself and then digging underneath to find out why. Just to say this part, this episode is not going to touch on controlling behavior in, for example, abusive relationships. I just need to point that out. I'm making it more, for this purpose, for this episode, from an overall in our daily lives and in our personal relationships with self. That's what the focus is going to be on with this. So we usually think of controlling behavior as something we need to put up boundaries with in others. And that could be a whole different podcast episode. However, what about how are we controlling in our own lives to ourselves and to the people who love us? Where are these behaviors manifesting? How are they constructing a reality around us, which is limited? And where are they hurting our relationship with self and spirit? So that's my focus today. So first off, what is control? Well, control is defined as the power to influence or direct people's behavior or the course of events. And why do we want control? It makes us feel safe. That's what I feel. Then we have to ask ourselves, where are we attempting to take control in our lives? Because wherever that is, it's a place where we don't feel safe. And if you take nothing else from this episode today, I want you to ask yourself that. Where am I taking control in my life, inside of me? And right there, that's something I don't feel safe about. Control, the way I see it, is really about safety. When someone tells you wherever in their life they're having a hard time letting go of control, you'll see where they don't feel safe. And therein lies some sort of insecurity, a fear, a trauma, or a part of themselves which is underdeveloped. I often see myself, more in the past than now, but I'll probably be working on this forever, being very nervous about how others perceive me. I'm indigo, okay, so I'll get into the color part of this later on. But, I'm always trying to make sure that I'm understood, that I'm not insulting, or that someone is going to elicit a negative response from me. So I would say I can look at myself and feel that I probably have a control issue here, because that's a fear. And I see this a lot in all of you, too, when I do readings. It's like, I think it's an empath aura thing. For me, my whole life, being likable was about survival from very little on. So now I associate the feeling of likability from others with being safe. So when someone doesn't like me, I can spend way too much time obsessing over it. And in the past, I would spend way too much time trying to change their minds or attitudes, thus giving energy to people that, weren't for me. Now that I understand that as an empath, an indigo purple empath, I'm constantly picking up other people's feelings, emotions, judgments, and prioritizing them over my own. And I'm also integrating them into my reality as truth. And because I realized I was doing this for so long, I've been able to step aside a bit from this. And does it trip me up? It sure does. It trips me up all the time. But it's been helpful to notice this. And honestly, since noticing it, I realize, hey, stepping into other people's thoughts, feelings, and judgments, it isn't for the purpose of forming their opinions about me or controlling their opinions about me. That's not what it's for. It's actually for helping them. That's what I do in readings. And when I took myself out of it, I was like, oh, I was being really controlling. And that was my ego right there. So in readings, I will see control stemming from fear. Many of you who've had tough upbringings are fearful you're going to recreate the same reality for yourself and the people you love presently. Therefore, I can see a lot of control issues pop up from this. I'll see people who were like completely poor growing up, trying to overspend today, making sure that themselves and their kids have everything they need. I'll see people who are fat shamed as a child, fearful about every food they put in their mouth, every piece of food. I will see people who were abused by their own parents go overboard in making sure their own children are feeling safe and secure in their relationship with themselves. Oftentimes, second-guessing themselves with just basic and necessary discipline. It's not abusive. That's just normal. I'll see people who have been abandoned by romantic partners, people who have been cheated on and lied to, become completely controlling of their partner's privacy, wondering where they are, getting paranoid, needing to GPS their phone, constantly worrying and demanding answers as they attempt to control the other person's behavior. So these are just a few ways control manifests from fear. It's always from some sort of place you don't feel safe. So ask yourself right now, where don't I feel safe? Where are you trying to control? And why don't you feel safe there? What happened? Control is also something which pops up for us because we feel if we don't do it, we'll drop the ball on life. This is because our egos, which is that wonderful human part of us, the part of us that it's just part of your human composition. You're born in this body, you have an ego. And the ego has a purpose. The ego wants you to stay the same. To do that, it loves for us to live in a fear state. When we live in a chaos-induced fear state, we can't grow. And the ego doesn't like growth because that's change. And the ego connotes change with danger. So this is just a basic human thing, your ego. And one of the ways it can control you is through giving you the illusion that you even have control. And that's one of the tricks of the ego, because you really don't have any control except your own reactions to things and your own processing to things and your own ability to be mindful about how you process things. Sometimes you don't even have control over your own feelings, but you always have control over how you are going to deal with them. But your soul doesn't fear. That's your soul. That's the true identity. That's your higher self identity, your soul identity. Your soul believes. There are two parts for you. The soul is your first voice, but the ego is the loudest one. So whenever something's going on, the first voice you're going to hear is your soul voice. So something happens, you're like, wow, or that's interesting, or you might just have a thought or whatever. And I can get into that more on another episode, because I really want to do an episode where I talk about separating the ego from spirit, from loved ones on the other side, and all those different voices that we talk about from your spirit guides or whatever. But I will tell you that all those voices are not the loudest voice. Your ego is always the loudest voice, but your ego is not your first voice. So just keep that in mind. And your ego will suggest every time ways for you to control any situation when you're unsure. It's the action plan that never really works. So we've talked about what you're afraid of. So once you've determined what you're afraid of, where that would be like where you're trying to control something in your life. Maybe it's food. Maybe it's your kids. Maybe it's a career situation. Maybe it's a friend group moment. Maybe it's something at your kid's school. Maybe, who knows? Where are you trying to control right now? And then underneath that, well, what am I scared of that I'm trying to control? Like, if I don't control it, what would happen? And if that happens, why is that bad? Like, if I'm not in charge of my sister's baby shower 100% and everything goes wrong, like, what'll happen? Will everybody think I suck? Will everybody think that I did it? Like, what's the underlying insecurities or fears there? Because that's really what it's about. So you got to ask yourself, do I have control over this? And I'll tell you what, if it's other people and their reactions or thoughts or judgments or feelings about you, you don't. You can't make someone love you. You can't make someone make amazing choices. You can't control people's perceptions. You can't make someone want something for themselves. You can't do a lot of things for people. And I will see often control come from love. Like when you love someone so much, you need them to make the right choices so that you don't suffer when they don't. You may be controlling someone's stubborn nature to make doctor's appointments, or an adult child's career choice, or a friend's incessant repetitive nature with dating not so nice people. At some point you have to ask yourself, do I actually have control here? And why am I trying to even elicit control? Is it because I just don't want to deal with the fallout in my own emotions when they screw up? Because you don't have any control. And if those are your reasons, you got to kind of like step back. You can suggest, you can offer support, you can even say it once or twice, but then you got to step back because it's just not good for you. Easier said than done. Okay, like again, this is not stuff that I'm great at either. I just said I had a whole breakdown last week dealing with my own control issues. But maybe if we work on it together, we can get a little better at it. And isn't that the point? I had a reading with a woman and she wanted to move. She wanted to move out of state. But she felt she couldn't leave her incredibly toxic and crazy parents, who she loved very much. She was always nudging them to eat better, to make their doctor's appointments. It was like her 50-year-old something parents were the rebellious teenagers and she was the responsible parent. She spent all her time and energy making sure they were okay, making correct financial choices, making sure they showed up to other family members' gatherings so they wouldn't be rude or ostracized by extended family members. I mean, everything. She was purchasing gifts for them to give to people so people didn't think that they were, inconsiderate. I mean, you name it, she was doing it. And in the reading, Spirit basically said to her, hey, you're not that important. and I know that might sound mean, but actually it's not. It's freedom. Basically, Spirit was trying to say, like, whether you're here or not for your parents, they're just going to keep doing all these things no matter what. You're not helping them. You're just participating in their circus. The circus will go on with or without you. You just won't be participating in it anymore. And you actually weren't ever helping. You were just trying to control something. And it was just keeping you dancing in their circus. And it was like, whoa, I can move. Because whether I'm here or not, it doesn't matter. If someone's determined to do something or think something or whatever, you can't control that. And that's a big thing I see for empath auras. And that's how I see, like, in our society, we think, controlling behavior, like somebody who's mean or whatever, somebody who does this to you or somebody who disrespects your boundaries. Well, empaths can work a little differently with their control issues. They love somebody so much, they're controlling over that person's well-being. But not everybody wants that help. And then you're just spending yourself trying to do it for them. And that's controlling too. It's hard to see it that way because you might be used to calling it love. But at some point, if somebody doesn't want the help, if somebody's not willing to change their mind, if somebody's not going to go along with it, this is something to reconsider or review. We talk a lot about detachment here, detachment from control. I talk about detachment with manifestation. Once you have an intention, you have to detach from it. You just got to let it go do its thing. In my Detachment is the Key to Manifestation episode, I think a while back, I was talking about, I think I said this, it's kind of like if you plant a seed, but you keep digging it up to see how it's going. That's what happens if you don't detach from something. You just disrupt it. So detachment from control, it's freedom, and it's really kind of like a surrender. Just like if you were playing tug of war and you were pulling and pulling and pulling and you just decided, this is like a stupid game. You just let go, and that immediate feeling of relief. So when you stop fighting, you let whatever was going to happen just happen. And it's really a statement to the universe that you have faith in its own processes, its own arrangement, and going with the flow is an act of faith. Letting go of control is an act of faith. Einstein said, I like this quote, "The most important decision we make is whether we believe we are living in a friendly or hostile universe." And I've often thought of this because I realize now, through doing all the readings I have and getting that spirit perspective, both are true and neither are true. We can live in a friendly universe or a hostile universe. They're really both true, and they're really both untrue. Honestly, it's what you believe. And what you believe is reality. And I know that's cliche and you've heard that a lot, but it's true. You can believe nothing works out for you, or you can believe everything works out for you. Whatever you believe is true. So you might as well just believe the good one, because then that'll be true. What you believe is reality. It's that simple. When you surrender more than when you put up a fight or control, you're saying that you believe that going with the flow is your ticket to the best possible reality for you to be living in. It's something which can bring lots of peace of mind too. And again, I just have to preface, I'm looking at control in the scope of your relationship with yourself. I'm not talking about activism. I'm not talking about speaking up for what's right or wrong in society. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm talking about your relationship with yourself. I just have to centering this to your relationship with you. I'm not talking about activism. I just have to put that out there. Okay. So when you're less controlling with these things with yourself, you can see that you're more open to spirit's messages as well. This is because honestly, like letting go of a lot of controlling behavior in yourself, what happens is you open up to a lot of personal responsibility messages for you. Because you're not so clouded with the illusion that something like you do or say is constantly creating an outcome. It takes a lot of energy. And it's also a huge deflection from what you got to work on with yourself. Because again, control is just about managing something that you're really scared of. And when you let go of control, you have to deal with the thing that you're actually scared of. And that way you get more personally responsible. And in that way, a much better contributor to the world as a whole. And so what I'm trying to say is that for a lot of you, giving up control will feel selfish because that's what your ego wants you to believe. But it's far from it. It's actually investing in yourself to be a better person for the people you love to come to for help when they are ready to receive it. You become a more whole person who can assist into energies that are open and ready and flowing of it, instead of like overseeing and dictating and fighting. So let's talk about how each aura color can kind of exhibit these controlling behaviors within themselves. And again, this is always going to go back to your own personal self, your trauma, your fears, your insecurities, everything we just spoke about the most. Auras are not, they're kind of like the way in which you act out whatever is going on with you. So the way I see it, like we could all have like different traumas, and every aura color might kind of manifest a reaction to that similarly in their own respective category. Okay, but again, no auras are bad, and no auras are more inherent. Honestly, no auras are inherently more controlling than others. Some are just more blatantly visible. And this will make sense as I go on. So let's do kind of the more blatantly visible aura colors. The red, the yellow, and the green, they get the bad raps in society when it comes to being accused of being controlling. Because they're kind of just more upfront about it. And so they kind of get the labels more than the other aura colors do. Doesn't mean that they're more, though, controlling. It just means they don't cover it up, which I think is funny. But anyways, red auras. Red auras are loud about being controlling. They need to be in charge. They're not going to hide that. They're not like ashamed of it. So they're like, yep, I'm in charge. I'm the boss. Don't like it. Bye. They can't, you know what I noticed about red aura people, and this limits them too within themselves. Like I noticed like a lot of red aura people can't hear things sometimes. They don't want to hear about themselves from anybody, which, hey, it's probably good to shut yourself off to criticism sometimes, but sometimes not. And red aura people are really good at never hearing it, and that can limit you because you're just controlling about that. Red auras have a hard time doing somebody else's plans. Hey, we're going on this trip, and then we're going to this dinner. Like, nope, I have to plan it, which limits you. Or you're out with a red aura, and you're like, all right, we're all going here. They're like, well, why? It's like, just do it. Just do it. Okay? It's okay. They kind of want to be in charge of the logistics a lot, which can limit their experiences. Other people's ideas can rub them the wrong way just because it's not theirs. And I think red aura people can be like really loud in kind of a way that's assertive, and it can be stressful for people, which can also limit their ability to connect sometimes because people get scared, or they also don't want to. I think it affects you when you're like this. It can affect your ability for people to feel safe around you sometimes. And red auras, they can do this thing to be controlling. They have to make people kind of earn a spot in their life by being a certain way, by having some sort of character quality that they find admirable. And that just limits your connections. It's just not as open-minded. Really, red auras just kind of want the best experience for everyone involved and to keep things on the up and up and to keep things fair and just. But the way that they can do it can just kind of limit their own experience. Yellow auras, the way that they can kind of get controlling is they can be very micromanaging, especially when it comes to projects or events. They can shut other people's opinions down. A lot of insecurity because they want things done right, and they have they're kind of like their own perfectionism rules them, and they become really enslaved to it. They cannot deal with their hypercritical nature within their own heads, so they just like, I'll just do it myself. Which means they can then shut other people's opinions or assistance down, which limits them. They just kind of want to do it themselves, yellows. They're not as great with the team unless they have like total control and everybody does what they say. Because yellows do have a specific vision, which is great. But when you have a specific vision, it can also limit other ideas, which might be awesome too. And then you just never got to experience them because you were too worried about making a mistake. With relationships with other people, they can also kind of cut people down. They can create self-doubt with questioning. They can make people not want to connect to them because they can get a little tough to talk to with their controlling kind of nature or questions. And again, when I talk about this, I guess it kind of feels negative. I just did the last 2 aura colors. This isn't negative, it's just kind of how you're limiting yourself. Let's put it that way. So I'm trying to get the most honest and direct examples, which seem very negative. But if you see it in yourself, then you can be like, oh, I do that. Okay. All right. I'm doing that. Where am I doing that? Okay. How can I fix it? And it doesn't mean like you're mean when you do it either. Usually, like when I was just talking about reds or even just now with yellows, you kind of do this a little covertly, like when you're having your little control moment. You're like, never mind, I got it. Do it myself. It's fine. I'm good. And people just kind of shy away. All right, greens. Greens are a bit of a loner, which limits them. They're controlling about whatever they're doing, so they just do it by themselves because they have to do it their way. And they kind of like to do it their way anyways. They can be very ultra-focused, like they won't let up. So they can't just sometimes let something go. They have to sit there with it until it's done, even when nobody else cares, which can limit them from spending time with other people or trying a new project or just letting something go or letting somebody else help you or whatever. They don't always care what other people care about, though, which can limit that connection, letting people in or their influence. There's a right way and a wrong way in their minds, which can limit them from other ideas. And they can be very closed-minded to alternatives. They can also be a little controlling with money, with themselves and the people in their lives. And sometimes green auras have like a measure of worth that somebody has to get to in their head for them to have a relationship with them, which can limit your connections with people. Purples, the way that purples are controlling, now we're getting to the less obvious ones, okay? But these are still just as powerful, just a little less obvious. Purples are controlling in that they can create chaos to make distractions. You ever have that friend, like we're all talking about something else and all of a sudden like, how are we talking about you again? They're like controlling the dynamic. They're controlling the vibe. They're controlling where the attention goes. They can refocus everyone off one thing and put them on another, like friend or family dynamics or whatever. They can be purples can get called manipulative a lot, which is just controlling. Purples can exhibit controlling behavior and kind of like friendship blackmail. They're like, I said something vulnerable. Now it's your turn. So they can get like control kind of your relationship with them, how much info you feel you need to share to be close to them or whatnot. And then they can, they can use it against you, which is kind of controlling. They tend to be kind of the spyer or the snooper because they have such a great intuition, but the intuition can get a little paranoid sometimes, especially if they're dealing with their own traumas, like where other people have hurt them in the past. So it can get controlling when they start spying or snooping or not trusting their partners. And they can make accusations. And they can also be a little controlling with peer pressure. Come on, you do it. I did it. You do it. That. Blues and indigos. Yep, I'm putting you together. I'm sorry. Blues and indigos can be controlling. They can kind of isolate friends or isolate partners because they don't like a lot of going on at once. So they can be like, but it's just our night tonight, or we're just going out. Or I thought it was just going to be me and you on this vacation, or me and you at the movies tonight. Why do we bring all these other people with us? Because they don't want to deal with everyone else's energy. They can get a little controlling about what energies are around them. So they can isolate people. They can sometimes not want to do things because they're frightened. I don't want to, go here because I heard this could happen, or I don't want to do this because I heard that can happen, or I'm scared. And that can limit their experiences with things because they're nervous. They can be very overly concerned with other people's thoughts of them, which can limit their own boundaries and limit their ability to make meaningful connections with people. They can spend way too much time trying to fix people who aren't worth the time and effort because they can't let go of their need to heal something. Because, like, if they don't heal it, it means that they don't have as much self-worth as they thought they did. So they can get fixated. It could be like a controlling thing trying to fix people. They can give guilt trips in an effort to control the people around them. And they can take other people's alone time as an insult. So they can kind of be controlling about how much alone time the people in their life have. Because then they can feel bad about it. They can make them feel bad about it, too. Turquoises. Real quick with turquoises, just what I've noticed. Two things can happen. Either a turquoise will try to control the narrative. So it's like, no, that didn't happen. This happened. Like that a little bit. Or they just dip out. Like when they feel out of control, it's like they kind of dip out. Indigos do that too. We call it the indigos. I'm like, you know what? I can't control you. I can't fix you. This relationship's over. I'm going to do the dip. That's kind of an indigo. So it's a form of control. A little bit like, meh, kind of. But turquoises kind of do the dip too. When they feel like they have no control, instead of deep diving into themselves, like why that bothers them, they can just poof, go away. Or they can try to change reality. And pinks, I saved my favorite for the last because I love how pinks deal with control. If they don't want to deal with something, I call it the pink joy bubble. They keep it out of the bubble. So it's kind of like when you were a little kid and you couldn't control your siblings, your little brother, your little sister's actions or whatever. So you did that thing like, I can't see you. Do I hear a dog barking? Oh my gosh. Like, do you hear that? I don't know. I think I hear that. Oh, and it's like the most annoying, infuriating thing to the people around you. If you can't control it, you just deny its existence, which can really irritate everyone around you if you're a pink. But for you, you're like, I'm cool. Until your joy bubble pops and then it all, like, it's like a dam that breaks and you're like, ah! And that can be very stressful. But that's how pinks deal with things when they can't control it. They just shut it out. Okay, I hope this helped. I hope this helped you see and ask yourself, where am I being controlling in my life? What does that say about myself? Where don't I feel safe? And let's continue that discussion on the Mystic Michaela Spiritual Family Facebook page. Hey, Scotty.
Hey, guys. All right. So after listening to your speech, it seems like it's that time again. And it seems like it's always that time for me, which is I have to do the shadow work.
It's more shadow work.
I have literally done more shadow work, homework, than all the work I did in high school and in college. And most people know that I had a 1.0 my freshman year in college, if you listen to this podcast. So there's hope for you if you're doing bad in college and listening. But yeah, I guess there's a lot of hope. Yeah, there's hope.
Here's your hope.
Just think about it.
If you just called people.
You
just gave yourself as an inspirational figure of hope.
Yeah. So think about it. If you're in any type of schooling right now, whether it be college, nursing school, whatever, high school, whatever, just know if you get a bad grade, I did worse than you. And look at me now, co-host of KYA.
You literally fight with the cats every day, though.
Well, that's your future. You're going to graduate. You will graduate, but you will fight with cats when you grow up.
When you grow up.
When you're like me. But look, I mean, yeah, there is definitely a lot to this. I do have to unpack it, and it's going to take me a while. But it's good that I know about it now. And
just like all your things you have to say.
You know what? I'm just going to deflect this. We already talked about one controlling dude, that Derek Brodus, who's probably really controlling with the house. But you know who else is more controlling than me?
Who?
Tom Brady. Now,
it's a mess.
We're going to call overtime here.
Overtime. Now, that means you may go.
You may go. If you don't want to listen to the nonsense, you can go. But
you may go.
Now we know that Selena Gomez is a KYA listener.
Yeah.
We know that Brad Pitt is not a KYA listener.
Okay.
Tom Brady, I don't think is a KYA listener.
Nothing gives me more strife than not being able to tell that man about his inauthentic red aura.
Right.
And if you know what that means, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It drives me insane.
It's driving me insane.
You stayed up late to watch like a football game with him, I think, because you just need him to know.
Yeah, Yeah, because I really watch very, very little sports these days, and I actually stayed up past my bedtime
You did.
to watch Tom Brady lose again to the everyone in Buffalo now was like, yeah,
I know.
They just cheered for me, and it's sad to watch.
I woke up this morning.
It is sad to watch,
and I'm like, you went to bed so late last night. You were finishing the game, and you were like, yeah, Tom Brady looked like he was gonna cry. I'm like, was that fun for you, or like?
No, I'm going to be honest, and this is not going to sit well. I just 30 seconds ago was a hero to the Buffalo people. Now they're going to be mad at me.
Right.
I always thought he was fun to watch. I enjoyed over the years watching him play the game.
Yeah.
I know there's like a lot of controversy over him and stuff like that, but I always liked the command he had on a football field, and I enjoyed watching him play. Not to say that they won. I could care less.
He's an amazing athlete.
Yeah, he still is an amazing athlete.
Yeah.
And
he's 45.
He's 45. That's crazy.
He's green and blue. I feel like we've talked about him.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
But it's just like weird now. Like, because I only watched the fourth quarter. I cannot watch a full game. I can't sit somewhere for that long anymore. But yeah, it's like he looks like he's going to cry every minute. It's like really sad to watch.
It's hard,
I do feel bad for him. I mean, I can't feel too bad for him.
How bad can you feel bad?
I take that back. I don't feel bad for him. But it is interesting watching him about to cry on every play. He's like a train wreck.
I feel
it's like
bad
probably how
for him.
When you watch Housewives or
I
something.
have to say, I do feel bad for him because you can't quantify pain. I mean, obviously, he's a gazillionaire.
Yeah.
And he'll never want for anything or struggle the way a lot of people will. But you can't really quantify pain. I mean, I don't know what it's like to be in this guy's head.
Yeah.
I mean, to actually want to do this, I would never want to do any of this crap. Yeah. And that's what he wants to do. And that's what he does all the time. And it's like, dude, you got to stop.
Yeah.
You just got to stop. And it's like you can't. And what's it like when your heart's still in it, but nothing else is cooperating?
All right. I'm going to put this out there. And again, it might be unpopular again. Tom Brady and Giselle. Am I going to let them skip the wait list? I don't know. No, they can't.
No.
You know what? You guys can't skip the wait list. You got to get on the wait list. But, eventually your number will be called. Maybe. We don't know.
I think they just need to hear the inauthentic red aura thing, and we teach you already what that means and how to fix it.
All right.
Because if you just get it, then you can fix it.
Yeah. All right. So if any of his New England friends...
I wrote a whole post about it.
Yeah. If any of their New England friends listen to... If they're from Florida, they probably sell Florida Purple, and that's probably also has a lot to do with it. He moved to Florida.
Moving to Florida. We could have warned you, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't he, throw, the Super Bowl trophy, across the water or something to a boat? And,
there was
a video of that or something?
There was all these footage. I don't know how accurate this is, but people were putting up all the other Super Bowls he won. He was like a normal guy with his kids.
Exactly.
Hi, I won. This is great.
Yeah.
Ta-ta. Tea. I'm a normal person celebrating mildly. And then his Florida win, it's he was wasted looking.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was. He looked like he was.
Right.
And he looked it was kind of it was nice to see him let loose. It was oh my God, he probably ate a carb today.
Right.
Eat carbs, drink beer. His body was probably shut down after it, but it's Florida.
Yeah.
It probably ruined everything.
He probably had inauthentic purple after that Super Bowl win.
Right.
So he was wearing inauthentic purple for a while.
It's Florida's fault, Tom.
He's a mess. This guy's a mess. He's got to you could straighten it for him. All right. So anyone in New England, not the Florida people, you guys are bad influences
I think Giselle's more into it than he is. I guess there was this footage of her she hired somebody, I don't know who, an energy person to cleanse her car.
Her car?
Yeah, she had this lady saging her car.
Okay. Well,
and people put up photos she's Giselle is crazy for it. And I'm I get it. Because in your car, it's where you think the most. It's where you're stressed or you're just constantly thinking. You got to sage your car.
And I just want to say one last thing before we close. The mailman just stopped by. Mm-hmm. And what I'm hoping for right now, more than anything else in my life, is that there's a letter addressed to the house. What that letter would say, a lot different than the other letter that the Brodus has got.
And then you can form your own 7-figure Netflix deal.
Yes. I noticed you have 3 cats that you hate.
It just sometimes you brought some furry blood to the house.
We could go on forever with this.
All right. Thank you all so much for spending some time with us today. This podcast is for you and about you, and you all take care.